If you've ever looked at your garden and thought, something's missing, the soil just feels tired, then you're not alone. I've been there too, staring down at dull, compacted earth that used to burst with life. But a few seasons ago, I stumbled upon something that changed everything. And no, it wasn't some fancy fertilizer or a store-bought soil amendment. It was a single, humble leaf, brewed into what I now call the one-leaf miracle tea. Within 48 hours, my soil woke up, earthworms returned, the smell of living earth, that deep forest floor aroma, came back, and the plants, let's just say they threw a party. So let me take you through exactly how this happened, why it works, and how you can make this same brew at home, using just one powerful leaf you probably already have nearby. I'll never forget the day I first tried this. It was after a long dry spell, and my once rich garden bed had become crusty and pale. My compost pile was struggling too, the microbes just weren't active anymore. While pruning around the edge of the garden, I noticed how lush and dark the soil was under my comfrey patch. That area had been thriving, even without any added compost or fertilizer. I'd always known comfrey was a dynamic accumulator, a plant that mines minerals from deep underground, but I hadn't realized just how potent its leaves could be as a soil reviver. So, on a hunch, I made a tea, not for me, for the soil. Comfrey is packed with nitrogen, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and trace minerals that most plants can't easily reach. Its deep taproot brings up nutrients from layers of soil that your regular crops never touch. When you ferment comfrey leaves, those minerals get released into a rich, microbe-feeding brew. But it's not just comfrey. Similar results can come from moringa, nettle, banana leaves, or even sweet potato vines, any green that's high in nutrients and breaks down quickly. The secret lies in how you ferment it. Done right, this leaf brew becomes a living tonic, feeding not just your plants, but the entire web of soil life beneath them. This recipe is as simple as it gets, but don't underestimate it. When made correctly, it's pure liquid energy for your soil. So, here's what you'll need. 1 large handful of comfrey, or really any nutrient-rich green leaf will do. 5 liters of non-chlorinated water. Rainwater is best if you can get it. 1 tablespoon of molasses or brown sugar. Totally optional, but honestly pretty powerful, since it feeds the microbes. And finally a bucket with a loose-fitting lid, or just a cloth cover. Alright, here's how to make it. First, tear the leaves into small pieces to expose more surface area. Then, place them in your bucket and fill it up with water. Add the molasses if you have it. This really helps kickstart fermentation. Cover it loosely, because you'll want some air exchange, not pressure buildup. Let it sit for 3 to 5 days in a shaded spot. If you can, give it a good stir once a day. You'll know it's ready when the liquid turns dark brown and gives off a strong, earthy, slightly funky smell. That's microbial activity in full swing. Before using, strain it and dilute it with 1 part brew to 5 parts water. Pour it over your garden soil or use it as a foliar spray in the early morning. Within 48 hours, you'll start to notice subtle but real changes. The soil loosens up, it holds onto moisture better, and worms reappear near the surface. The plants seem to perk up, their leaves gaining that deep green sheen that just screams, "I'm alive!" This isn't magic, it's biology. The one-leaf brew really jumpstarts the soil microbiome, which is that invisible network of bacteria, fungi, and all sorts of tiny organisms that make soil fertile. Here's what happens. The fermented leaf provides soluble nutrients, especially potassium and calcium, that plants absorb easily. The microbes in the brew move into your soil, where they multiply rapidly, feeding on organic matter and unlocking nutrients trapped in clay or compacted soil. These microbes, in turn, attract earthworms and beneficial nematodes, which further aerate the soil and improve its texture. In essence, your soil starts breathing again. That's why it looks and feels alive after just 2 days. You're not just feeding your plants, you're feeding the ecosystem that keeps them healthy. After I poured the first batch of comfrey brew over my struggling garden, honestly, I didn't expect much, but 2 mornings later, I noticed something different. The soil surface looked darker, almost as if it had been freshly mulched. When I dug a few inches down, I was stunned. Worms were back. Dozens of them, wriggling through what had been dry, lifeless dirt just a few days earlier. The smell of the soil had changed too. That rich, sweet, earthy scent of microbial activity had returned. By the end of the week, my spinach leaves were broader, and my tomato seedlings had doubled in size. It was clear, this wasn't a coincidence, it was soil biology at work. Since then, I've used this simple brew as part of my monthly soil revival routine, especially before planting and during recovery after harvest. Here are a few lessons I've learned after years of experimenting with this soil elixir. First, don't overdo it. This stuff is strong. Always dilute it. A dark, undiluted brew can be too rich and may overwhelm young seedlings. Second, keep it alive. Avoid chlorinated tap water as chlorine kills beneficial microbes. If tap water is your only option, let it sit uncovered for 24 hours before using. Third, feed your soil, not just your plants. Apply the brew directly to the soil rather than only spraying the leaves. This ensures the microbes settle where they can work best. And fourth, store it short-term only. The brew is most potent when fresh. Try to use it within a week, as microbial activity declines over time. If comfrey isn't growing in your area, don't worry. Nature provides alternatives. Moringa leaves are packed with amino acids and calcium, making them a true superfood for both you and your soil. Banana leaves or peels are rich in potassium, which is just great for flowering and fruiting plants. Nettle leaves are high in nitrogen, silica and iron, so they're a perfect tonic for tired soils. And, sweet potato or pumpkin leaves are excellent for adding organic matter and quick nutrients. Each of these plants offers its own unique nutrient profile, and the brewing process remains exactly the same. The beauty of the one-leaf brew really lies in its living nature. Chemical fertilizers may feed your plants, but they do little to sustain soil life. In fact, they often disrupt it. This brew, on the other hand, works with nature, encouraging soil microbes to flourish, which in turn creates long-term fertility. You're building a regenerative system rather than a temporary fix. It's sustainable, cost-free, and honestly, incredibly effective. And once you start seeing results, you'll never go back to bottled fertilizers again. When I first discovered this brew, I realized something profound. We don't need to control nature. We just need to feed it right. Soil isn't a lifeless medium, it's a living, breathing community waiting to thrive. So, if your garden feels dull, if your soil has lost its spark, give this one-leaf miracle a try. You'll witness the transformation with your own eyes, within just 48 hours. And when it happens, share your results. I'd love to hear your story. If you found this guide helpful, subscribe to Soilsage Chronicles on YouTube for more real, nature-based gardening hacks that truly work. Share this article with a fellow gardener who needs to wake their soil back up, and let's keep the soil alive, one leaf at a time.